A Mercedes driver just confirmed Ferrari's engine upgrade is coming, and the entire 2026 Formula One Championship just shifted. 3 rounds into the season, Mercedes leads the constructors' standings and has been the dominant force in every session they have entered. No other team has matched their pace on a consistent basis. The question the entire paddock has been circling around since the first race of the year is whether anyone can actually challenge them. After the Japanese Grand Prix, Kimi Antonelli, not a Ferrari driver, not an analyst, not a journalist, but a Mercedes driver, sat in front of a microphone and answered that question directly. What he said is now the most important piece of information in Formula One heading into the Miami Grand Prix and beyond. To understand why Antonelli's statement carries the weight it does, the competitive picture across the entire grid needs to be established clearly. Mercedes currently leads the 2026 F1 World Championship after 3 rounds. Their engine is the benchmark, estimated at approximately 570 brake horsepower on the internal combustion side alone. Ferrari is estimated to be running approximately 25 horsepower down on Mercedes. Red Bull's power unit, built entirely from scratch as a brand new manufacturer, is estimated to be approximately 10 horsepower down, making it the second best combustion engine on the grid. Honda and Audi are estimated to be further behind still. On the electrical side, the MGUK output is hard capped at 350 kilowatts for every team on the grid, meaning the performance gap between manufacturers comes entirely from the combustion engine. That gap is where this entire story lives. Though the weight situation across the grid adds a second layer to the competitive picture. Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren are all at or very close to the minimum weight limit, giving them flexibility in how they distribute ballast around the car. Haas, Alpine, VCARB, and Cadillac are also reported to be at or near the weight limit. Williams, however, is reported to be approximately 26 kilograms overweight, with some reports placing the figure as high as 30 kilograms. At the performance level of a modern Formula One car, that translates to an estimated 7 to 8 tenths of a second per lap of performance left on the table. The reason is specific. Williams failed their crash test, then failed it a second time, requiring additional structural material, and therefore additional weight, to be added to the car before it was cleared to race. Aston Martin is also carrying excess weight, which was partly anticipated given that significant leadership changes at the team began approximately 1 year ago. Red Bull carries a significantly overweight car, a direct consequence of committing the majority of their 2025 development resources toward giving Max Verstappen a championship challenge, leaving insufficient time to optimize the new 2026 package. Red Bull's situation in 2026 is one of the most paradoxical in the paddock. They built a brand new power unit from the ground up as a first-time engine manufacturer, and by current estimates, that unit is performing at the second best level on the entire grid, ahead of Ferrari, Honda, and Audi. That is a genuinely remarkable engineering achievement for a team that had never produced a Formula One power unit before. And yet Verstappen has not been consistently challenging for podiums. The reason was stated directly and without ambiguity. We have a good power unit, the engine is good, the chassis is terrible, we're just so slow in the corners. An upgrade package brought to the Japanese Grand Prix reportedly produced the opposite effect to what the engineering team had designed it to do, a fact confirmed by Verstappen himself after the race. Since Adrian Newey's departure from the team, Red Bull has not produced evidence of a coherent aerodynamic development direction. The overweight chassis combined with a structural performance deficit means the team is simultaneously fighting problems on multiple fronts. And critically, because Red Bull's power unit is estimated to be within 2% of the Mercedes benchmark, they will almost certainly not qualify for any additional engine development allocation under the 2026 regulations. Every improvement they make this season must come through chassis development alone. That is the position they are in. The regulatory mechanism that determines who receives an engine upgrade in 2026 is called the Additional Development Unit, ADU. The FIA will conduct official engine performance testing around the time of the Miami Grand Prix in early May 2026. The results of that testing establish the performance gap between each manufacturer and the Mercedes benchmark. Teams confirmed to be 2% or more below the benchmark receive one additional development upgrade for the season. teams confirmed to be 4% or more below the benchmark receive 2 additional development upgrades. Alongside the technical allocation, teams also receive additional cost cap room to fund the development work. The benchmark figure is calculated against total power unit output, the combined output of both the internal combustion engine and the electrical systems, which is estimated at approximately 1,000 horsepower when both components are running at full deployment. Mercedes, as the benchmark setter, is frozen. No engine upgrades permitted. McLaren, Alpine, and Williams all run Mercedes power units and are therefore also frozen on the engine side. Yet the FIA has publicly stated that sandbagging, deliberately reducing performance on track or on the dyno to qualify for upgrades that would not otherwise be available, will be identified and controlled through independent testing data. There are also unresolved regulatory questions around whether teams can introduce an entirely new engine architecture or only develop within the framework of their existing unit. Then came the moment that changed the conversation. Following the Japanese Grand Prix, Kimi Antonelli gave media interviews and said something that went significantly beyond the typical carefully managed statements that Formula One drivers deliver in press situations. Antonelli confirmed directly that Ferrari has been granted the ADU, or at minimum that it is a near certainty that they will receive it. His position was clear: Ferrari will get access to the additional development opportunity, which will allow them to develop the engine, and they will definitely get much closer, because the car is already fast, and if they also manage to improve the engine, they will close the gap even more. Read that again. A Mercedes driver, the driver who benefits most from Ferrari being behind, publicly confirmed that Ferrari is closing. Both Mercedes and Ferrari internally appear aligned on the expectation that Ferrari qualifies for the upgrade. This is not a rumor from outside the paddock. This is a statement from the driver of the championship-leading car. What Ferrari is actually developing in preparation for this upgrade window involves several specific technical areas. Their current power unit runs a turbocharger estimated to be approximately 10% smaller than the unit fitted to the Mercedes engine, a gap that sits within the regulatory boundaries that restrict how large or small a turbo can be, meaning it is not a dramatic size difference but a meaningful one in performance terms. Ferrari is reported to be working toward fitting the maximum size turbocharger permitted under the regulations, with the engineering belief that the top speed gains from a larger turbo outweigh the off-the-line low-speed performance that a smaller unit can provide. Ferrari also has other technology within their system that contributes to strong launch performance, meaning the dependency on a smaller turbo for that purpose is lower than it might otherwise be. But the compression ratio approach reportedly used by Mercedes to extract additional combustion power is also a potential development path. However, there are reports that the FIA intends to close that specific avenue via updated testing protocols as early as June 2026. Ferrari has been running engine testing at Fiorano. A Pirelli wet tire test at Monza is also scheduled, with Ferrari running a configuration referred to internally as the Macarena 3.0 setup. Separate Pirelli tests involving Mercedes and McLaren are scheduled at the Nürburgring on April 14th and 15th. The current target timeline for a race-ready upgraded Ferrari power unit is the Barcelona Grand Prix or the Austrian Grand Prix, the opening phase of the European calendar. Away from the engine story, there is one issue on which every team principal, every driver, and both the FIA and FOM now publicly agree: qualifying is broken. Toto Wolff stated publicly that the format needs to be fixed immediately. Andrea Stella of McLaren identified qualifying as priority number 1 for the sport. Lauren McKee was direct. If there is one thing we can all agree on, the FIA, F1 themselves, the teams, the drivers, is that we would like to see qualifying be flat-out qualifying or as close as possible to flat-out qualifying. A formal meeting involving the FIA, FOM, and all 10 teams is scheduled within 5 days in London to address qualifying reform, safety matters including the Behrman crash, and other sporting issues. The fact that Mercedes, who have secured pole positions in 2026, are publicly demanding reform makes clear that this is a structural problem with the format itself, not a complaint from teams who are losing. Several other developments are worth noting from the current paddock. Jack Doohan, currently serving as Alpine's reserve driver and not competing full-time in 2026, has reportedly received a race seat offer from Ferrari for the 2026 season. Liam Lawson is reportedly among the Formula One drivers considering a period away from the sport, with Australian supercars mentioned as a potential destination. Verstappen has expressed interest in racing at the Nürburgring during the April break. Lance Stroll is competing in GT3 machinery during the same period. Fernando Alonso's newborn son has been issued a paddock pass. His name is Leonard, correcting earlier media reports that suggested Alonso had named the child Fernando Jr. Alonso described the paddock pass as the first of many. 3 rounds into the 2026 Formula One season, Mercedes leads. But the architecture of this championship is now clearly defined. Ferrari has what multiple informed voices believe is the best or joint best chassis on the grid. The rear of their car in particular has performed strongly. Mercedes' engine advantage is real and currently decisive. But Mercedes is frozen. Ferrari is not. If the ADU approval is confirmed following the Miami testing window and the upgraded power unit arrives at Barcelona or Austria, Ferrari enters the second half of the European calendar with an improved engine in a car that is already fast. The April break, with no Grand Prix weekend scheduled, has removed 2 or 3 rounds that would likely have been Mercedes victories, buying Ferrari development time without the cost of points. McLaren is not currently operating at a level that puts them in championship contention. Red Bull must solve a chassis problem without engine upgrade access, and without confirmed long-term commitment from Verstappen. The ADU decision after Miami is the single most consequential regulatory moment of the 2026 season, and a Mercedes driver has already told you which way it is going. Drop your 2026 championship prediction in the comments right now. Does Ferrari close the gap in time to make this a title fight? Or does Mercedes' engine freeze-proof advantage hold until the end of the season? If you want full coverage of the London meeting on qualifying reform, the Miami Grand Prix build-up, and the ADU confirmation the moment it drops, subscribe and turn on notifications because this story moves fast and the next chapter arrives at Miami.